Hello everybody, welcome back to another video here at BurgZerg Arcade. Today we're going to start the course on how to use Git with Unity. And I actually do have a course for it up on the website, but unfortunately I'm having a bit of trouble with the back end right now. I'm not going to be able to upload the videos to it anytime soon, but that's okay. We're going to have them on YouTube, and that's where the majority of people actually go to watch it anyway. I will go ahead and put a link up on Twitch as well for those people that follow me on Twitch. But anyway, for now, they're just going to be on YouTube. So, social coding, using Git with Unity. Why would you want to do it? Well, there's a few reasons why you'd want to do it. One, it gives you an offsite backup. And this, I think, at least for me, is the most important one. I don't have to worry about if my hard drive crashes or for whatever reason, my project just completely gone. Because I'll have another copy of it up somewhere in the cloud or wherever it is that I'm actually saving my Git repo to. You can save your Git to your local hard drive, but to me it's kind of well, you're better off to save it somewhere that remote off of your system, just in case your hard drive dies. There's no point in having that version control on your hard drive if it dies and well, you just lose everything anyway. There are certain cases where I have actually just gone ahead and set up a repo on my laptop and just did everything there. That's usually when I'm just testing a bunch of different variations on a script and I'm not really sure which one I want to keep. But anyway, that's not the focus of this here. This here is just a very introductory look at how to get Git working with Unity. And we will go on with a few more videos later on with more advanced stuff. But for now, I just want to get you up and running with Git and Unity, as all of my projects that I'm going to be putting out in the public are going to be stored on repos somewhere. So let's go ahead and we'll start that up. So let's go ahead and head over to github.com and go ahead and create yourself an account. Pick your username, set an email, create a password, and we'll go ahead and get that set up. And once you have all that set up, you can go ahead, just hit the little kitty cat up here. It'll bring you to your, well, basically your home page. And the first thing that we're going to look at is how to create a repo on GitHub. Now there's other services you can use. Bitbucket's really popular. Another one is Stash. I originally jumped between Bitbucket and GitHub. Then I found out how to set up my own private repo on one of my NASs. Now I just use that all the time. Now GitHub is really great if you have a bunch of things that you just want to share with everyone. If we take a look here, their free plan, you can have unlimited amount of collaborators working on it. So if you've got some huge open source project, great. Public repositories, unlimited. Private repositories, none. Then of course it starts going up for, well, if you have the micro version, it's only $7 a month, and you can still have unlimited collaborators. Public repositories are still unlimited, and you actually get 5 repos. And of course, as it starts going up and up, you can see how, well, you take a look at the pricing structure here, you can see how it works. But for this demonstration, we're just going to be using the free plan. So everything will be public. So I'm going to go ahead, hit the kitty again, head back to my home page here. And the first thing I want to do is show you how to create a repo on the website, and then go ahead and integrate that, or put our project into that repo. So the reason why I'm doing it this way first is there's one really cool thing about GitHub is that you can go ahead and create your license file, your readme file, your git ignore file all on here. And if you've never created one before, this is kind of nice because you don't have to worry about creating these yourself. Once you actually have them, you can just copy them from file to file. So let's go ahead. We'll set the owner up as well, my account, and we're going to go ahead and call it. This is going to be locally created repo. Sorry, that's what I'm going to call it. Locally created repo. And you can't have spaces in it. And it's not locally, sorry, it's remote. That was neat there. Of course, as soon as I get out of there, it gets rid of the spaces for me. So that's what we're going to call it. So it shows that it will be renamed. That's fine. Now go ahead and enter a description for this. I'm going to call mine a demonstration of how to create a repository on Git. My cursor, and I can see GitHub, and then put a Unity project in it. All right, now of course if you want to do private, remember what I said, you have to upgrade to micro, so you'll have to pay. So we're gonna leave this public. And we're gonna initialize it with a readme file. This is great because it'll make that readme file for me, and then I can just edit that readme file later. And right here, add a .gitignore file. We're gonna take a look at this a little bit more after, but since we're gonna be using Unity, these things, they're not hard to make, but when you're first starting out, it's kind of confused. Like, what does this file do? And basically, it's going to tell your Git repository to ignore certain files in your project. So all of those temp files that you get when you're creating a project in Unity, you don't want to send them up because those are just for your local build on your machine. They're not going to work on anyone else's. They're going to be different than on someone else's machine, and you're just going to have a lot more bandwidth needed to send back and forth. And it's just not going to work with other people's computers anyway. So there's no point in setting it. So you can set that up and gitignore, say, ignore the whole temp directory. And the great thing is that here, you actually have a Unity gitignore template already. And of course, a license. You should include a license. I'm just going to use that one for now. And that's it. We'll go ahead and create repo. And there we go. There's all of the files already in it, the readme file right here. And you'll notice that the readme file is also displayed down here. You have your license file, which just includes whatever license that you want to include in your project, if any at all. You should include one. And the gitignore file. So we're going to take a look at this. So here we go. These are all the things in your Unity project that your repository is going to ignore. So it's going to ignore the library, the temporary, the object, and the build folders. Of course, it doesn't matter if it starts with a capital L or small l. Now, all the auto-generated Visual Studio and mono-developed solution and project files, you don't need to send those up, as they can just be generated on your local machines. So it's going to go ahead and ignore them. It's going to ignore some of the meta files and also the system info text. Now, if you look around online, you'll see a lot of people with bigger ignore lists. Basically have other things in here that they're ignoring. And I think this here is great to start with. As you go along, you'll find other things that maybe you don't want to sync up. But for starting, I'm just going to go ahead and use this. So let's get back out of there. And that's actually it for the website right now. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. And the next thing I want to do is open up Sourcetree. Now, Sourcetree is a free GUI for Git. You can use command line if you want, but I'm pretty sure everyone that's following me on YouTube, well, not everyone, the majority of the people that follow me on YouTube are probably going to want a GUI for it, at least to start out with. As you get better, you do get a little bit more control if you use the command line, but when you're just starting out, I like having the GUI. So here we go, Sourcetree. It works for Mercurial and Git. It works on Windows and Mac. It's free, and I believe after 30 days it requires you to register, but it's still free. And it does look a little bit different between the Mac and the Windows version, but the process is the exact same. So here's ones that it supports right out of the box. We'll look at that as we go along. I'll leave it to you to go ahead and explore the website if you'd like. Well, let's go ahead and let's hook up to that repo. So I'm going to hit the clone or new. And we're going to want to do a clone repository. You can actually create a local copy. This is where you're going to be creating a local Git. But like I said, it's not very good. Well, you generally want a remote copy somewhere for that extra backup or recovery. So the source path of your URL, we're going to go ahead and hit this little globe button because we want to go online for it. And I'm going to go see the login failed. I tried to log me in, but I don't have my credentials set up properly. I'm actually going to close this because I thought I got rid of them all. So I actually use Sourcetree, and I thought I got rid of all of them, but apparently, oh, you know what it was? I didn't get rid of them out of here, did I? All right, there we go. Now it's like a fresh copy. So we'll start that part over. So we'll go ahead, we'll click the little internet button here. And it's going to ask me what hosting service I want to go to. Remember I said there's other ones out there? These are the 3 that are provided. I thought it did more. But either way, we're going to pick GitHub. Hosted URL, we're not going to go with right now. Go ahead and use the username that you have on GitHub. So there's mine. And you're also going to want to put in the password. So go ahead and put your password in. And provided you entered your password properly, you should get the password okay. Preferred protocol, we're just going to use HTTPS. Hit OK. And there we go. We actually now have a hosted account set up, and you can set multiple ones up. Maybe you want to set one up for Bitbucket. Again, if you're working in a small team, Bitbucket's great if you want to have private repos and you've got 5 or fewer people in your group that need access to it. It's great because that's free. Basically, look around. There's tons of services out there. Just look around and figure out which one's going to suit your needs the most. So we got all this done. I'm going to hit close. And here we go. Here's that remotely created repo. Try to pull it up over here. So because we connected to our GitHub account, it automatically detected it for us. And if we didn't have one there, we could create one, but we'll do that in the next video. For now, let's go ahead. We'll grab this and we'll hit OK. And it's going to ask us where we want to save it. Now, I have a particular folder structure that I like to use for all my Git stuff. And I have it on this drive because this drive actually gets backed up every hour if it needs to. And I have a special folder for Git. And I do have my Git separated into private and public. And then whatever project, my Unity 3D projects. And I'm actually going to create a new folder in here. And I'm just going to call it Git Examples. Now I'm actually going to go in here and create another folder for this one. And this is the remote one. So I'm just going to say remote created. It should be remotely created. But anyway, remote created. And I always get this part confused. I know I want another folder in there. Let me actually go ahead and open this up. So here's my Git examples, remotely created. I like to have another folder in here called remotely created as well. But I want my Git stuff in here. Then in that second folder, that's where I like my Unity project. That's just the way I do it. You don't need it to be like that. And once I get it created, we'll take another look at it. Well, let me just quickly go through. That's it. We don't have to touch anything else. Let's go ahead and hit clone. And it's going to go grab our project for us and grab it. And if I go ahead and open up this here again, remotely created, we open it up. There we go. We've got our git ignore file, our license, and our readme. I'm going to go ahead, open up the readme, and just change it a bit. We have a local copy on our system now. Sweet. So this is pulled from our repo online. I'm gonna go ahead, we'll save that off. Of course, we have the license. I'm not gonna bother opening it up with anything. And our git ignore file. If you had any more things you wanted to add, here's a good time to do it. But I don't right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and just move this off to another monitor. Let's go ahead and we're gonna start off with the working copy. This is stuff that's already in our folder. And if we take a look here, I edited that file already, the readme file. So it's orange saying, hey, you know, we've got changes that have been made that we haven't committed or sent back up to our repo. And it's showing the file over here, and the green is showing the new changes. And if it has any red, that means it's something we've taken out. So we're going to be having a lot more in here. But for now, let's just go ahead. We'll just leave that there. Let's go ahead and create our Unity project now. And we'll create a new project. I want it in a different spot. Now, like I said, I like to put it in the folder. There we go. And I want to call it remotely created. And I think that's going to put it the way I want it. Let's go, we'll save it. And if I go look at my folder structure, it did put it the way I want. Now, like I said, you don't need to have your Unity project in a separate folder. I just like it that way. So all my Git stuff is outside of the actual project itself. It's just one of those things. I like it that way. Put it any way you want. All right, so we've got our Unity project open. We want it to work with Git. There's really only two things we have to do to get it to work with Git out of the box. Let's come up to Edit, Project Settings, Editor. And to work with Git, we're going to want to take the version control mode, switch it over to visible meta files. And depending how big of a project you have, it can take a couple seconds to switch, especially with this one here, this next one, the asset serialization mode. We're going to go ahead and say force text. And we've seen the little pop-up there, but I've got nothing in my project, so it's not going to take that long. If we were to take our old hack and slash series and do it, it would probably take probably a minute or two to actually go through and switch everything over for us. I am actually going to go ahead and make some folders in here. Well, let's just at least make one. We'll make one folder. We'll call it Scenes. And I'm going to go ahead and save this scene off in my Scenes folder. And I'm just going to call it Demo 1. Great. And I'm actually just going to close the project now. We'll come back over to our folder. And this was the folder it created, our assets. There's our scenes folder. We got the meta file that we're now showing. We open it up. There's our scene file and its meta file. Great. Everything's the way we want it. So let's go ahead. We'll go back into Sourcetree, which I left open. And sometimes it doesn't automatically update. It always has for me, at least recently. I've had times where I've had to close it down and start it back up before it notices. But if we take a look here, it did capture it all for us. And well, it's basically telling us, so these white ones means that they're brand new. So it's not that anything's changed. These are just brand new. And if we take a look here, all the asset files, here's our scene files, our git ignore file, or sorry, .git ignore file is really doing its job, and we only have 17 things to, well, 17 new and 1 to update. If we didn't have that git ignore file, there'd be like a ton of stuff that it'd want to update. It'd be trying to update like your temp folder. I think your library folder is one of the ones. Yeah, so it'd be trying to include these two folders as well, your library and your temp. And we don't need those. Like I said, they're different for everyone's machine. So how do we get this up to Git? Well, we can go ahead and select each file individually. Maybe there's only certain files we want to send, at least right now, or at least commit to it. And of course, like I said, if you click on it, it'll tell you what's changed. It's all green means it's all new. And it's kind of cool being able to look at some of these meta files, I think anyway. But we know we want to send all of them. So I'm going to go ahead, just click the unstage all. If we go ahead and get rid of all the stage files. If you want to commit everything all at once, that's great. You could do this way. Now we're going to be doing what's called committing the files, and then we're going to be pushing them up to our repository, but we don't always have to do a push after we do a commit. You can do several commits along the way. Let's say you're maybe working on a new UI system. You could be making commits after you get each piece of the UI system working, but don't do a push till you get the whole UI display working. Just in case you know you got to roll back, whatnot. But I guess when we start with making branches and doing iterative commits, we'll look at it then. But for now, we just want to push everything up. So we're going to take it all. We're just going to hit this commit button. And it's going to ask us to basically give a description of what we're doing here. And I'm just going to say freshly created Unity project. Not projects, project. Now we could push at the exact same time, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hit commit. And if we come in here, it's going to tell us that it doesn't know who we are. Now we can easily fix this either by following the instructions that it says. So we can come up here and go to the terminal and do what it says there. I don't like doing it that way. I just like coming up to the options here. Authentication. And I like to fill out this information here. And then hit commit again. And there we go. It's been committed, but it's not pushed up. If we go ahead and open up GitHub again, we'll go to the repo for it. And we still only have the 3 files that we had originally. But we'll notice here that we've got a number 1 beside the push, meaning that, we've got a push to make. And we'll get into these, like the master, the origin master, origin head. We'll get into that after, but for now, let's just go ahead. We'll push this up. And it's going to ask us what we want to push to. My local branch is master. If we take a look here. And the remote branch, we only have 1 remote branch so far. So we're going to be pushing to master. And for just creating the project, that's what you want to do anyway. So we'll go ahead, we'll hit OK, and it goes, and it's done. Now this little hierarchy here, as we go along, it'll just get longer and longer. And as we start creating other branches and merging stuff, you'll have like this little, almost not a spider web, but all these like different lines going around. And you'll see how we will branch off, do something, then recommit it into the master, and just, well, basically how it all flows together. But for now, we're just trying to get our project up there. So let's go ahead. So we'll go back to our repo. We go ahead and refresh the page. We'll notice that we actually have our project now. And you'll see here when the last commit was. So 2 minutes ago, I made the changes here, which is we have a local copy of our system. Yeah. And of course, our actual project. If we open this up, we have the project settings, the AS file scenes folder, and there we go. So just a quick recap. The way we did this, we're going to go back to our start. For the very first repository that we created, we went ahead and used GitHub, used new repo, filled all this out. And like I said, I like using this way for your very first one, simply because it gives you that .git ignore file to start off with and a license. Now, like I said, you can find other ones online, but I like to start with a nice minimalized fresh copy, which you can get here. And then of course we pulled it to our system, and well, we didn't actually pull it, we cloned it and put our project in it, and then pushed our project, well, committed and then pushed our project up to our repository. In the next video, we're going to take a look at doing all of this on our system without going to GitHub. So basically, we're not going to be, well, we're still going to look at the websites. We want to see things as they go along, but we're going to do everything on our system instead. Since we already have those files, we can just copy the git ignore and the license and the readme as well. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.